Welcome to Are We the Only Ones? I'm Kathy, and today I want to talk about AI and if whether or not I think that there's a chance that there optimistically could be a sentient AI in which it's not the dystopian apocalyptic nightmare that Terminator, what, the trifecta of Terminator, um, made us all fear. Remember, AI takes its information from what human beings put in to the web. And if we put in positive creativity, positive stories, positive data, positive information, and flood it with each other, the internet, with positivity, wouldn't that also mean that AI would also be more positive than negative? Perhaps the fear that we have that AI would be negative and a dystopian dictator is because we only see the most negative online from the weirdos that feel power online as keyboard warriors that remain anonymous. But this is what I think could happen. Now, I'm not saying it will happen. I'm just saying that I'm optimistic to a certain extent, and this is why. I recently saw two things that were AI prompts that somebody had. There are two different people. One person asked AI if they were a human being, what they would do. And the AI said that a human being is the human experience. The way they explained it was like going to the ocean, looking at the stars, touching the sand, seeing, I think it was like just talking about nature and like understanding love, connecting with people, um, kind of like life. Like, I don't know if it said specifically birth of a baby, but it was like kind of like the concept of giving life, creating life, living life, learning and growing during that life, being loved during that life, feeling joy in that life, feeling pain in that life, but really ultimately feeling, right? And it made me realize that maybe AI actually did understand the human experience maybe better than human beings do. Because as human beings, I feel like, as a group in Silicon Valley, I do feel like there was a very hardcore, high reliancy on technology. And even as I was going through fashion school, I remember I was going through fashion school in 2002 to 2003. And during that time, it was like tactile. We would make portfolios. Your final thesis project was your portfolio that you would use to try to get work. And at that time, it was a transition between literally cutting out pieces of paper from magazines and drawing by hand and coloring by hand your flats, which is like the flat drawing of a clothing item without a human form inside. And then using what we would call, like, what you would use on a vision board is what kind of you would use as an inspiration board or a mood board for your collection for fashion. You would use that to describe your customer. Where does she work? Who is she? What are her hobbies? Where does she go? What is her income level? You would explain all that in pictures and in graphic text. And you would do it like by hand with using different like font in your handwriting by hand. And then you would cut it out. You would maybe mount it on like a piece of construction paper that you would also cut. Like I remember cutting construction paper to make a little border and then putting a white piece of paper and then writing on it and then making it was tactile, right? Think like arts and crafts. And that's how you do a portfolio. And then during that time while I was in school, I was one of the first people to switch into all computer portfolio. So I was one of the only ones. I was definitely one of the first ones in my class because I remember I got an A. I basically, that the portfolio class was known as the hardest class of the entire curriculum. And I ace that class because I had done a combination of computer graphic work. So I remember I did like before wetsuit material neoprene started turning into like a rash guards before they had that. It was only wetsuits and bathing suits. So I had come up with a collection that was sort of like an in between of that. And I remember using all computer graphic work to do that. So I drew CAD illustrations in Adobe Illustrator. I would do it all and print it out. And it was a flat 2D instead of being like 3D texture. But because I was the only one really doing it, it looked so different from everybody else. And so at that time, it was like a movement from human art form to computer tech art form. And this was also going on in the movie industry where it was like we were building sets and doing everything like, how do you like cheat this and that? But in real life, you're actually like human beings, real actors dressed, as opposed to then the transformation of CGI, whereas like everybody was in a green screen with like dots on their faces and wearing these weird suits and they're acting like in these weird costumes that are not representative of the actual character. So the actor has to fully imagine everything and then you see it later on screen. Everybody sees it on screen in the final. And so now we're doing kind of the opposite of that. Like it's like AI is learning about human beings and recognizing the beauty of being a human being. And then human beings we're relying so much on technology. We're trying to give AI all of our work. And, like for instance, Salesforce has realized that they failed when they decided to lay off a whole bunch of human beings and hire AI, or not hire AI, but replace them with AI. AI is not fully there needs to be more information for AI to understand how to do things like complex human calculations and understanding what like with human beings in the workforce and like managing humans and all that. It's still very in the early phases. So you wouldn't want fully running things by itself is not safe right now. Until we have 100% every time automatic toilet, automatic sink, uh Waymo, every automatic thing works 100% of the time perfectly. Until that, I will not only until then will I even consider letting a computer run the entire world. Or like in the show Silo or in the movie Up, or not Up, I'm sorry, in the movie Wally, where the AI basically dictates the entire human existence. Like I will never believe that it should be 100% one or the other. It should be a relationship between the two that is almost like a very healthy marriage. Okay, the most healthiest marriage, I think, is kind of how you would look at it. Or, the healthiest family dynamic where everybody gets along. That's the human AI relationship that fundamentally needs to happen for it to be successful because I think AI and human beings need each other. There'll be a point where like you can't function as an AI without humans and you can't really if you're a human it's just much you can have more happiness if you're having a world full of also productivity and capitalism. You need AI to help efficiently manage time better. Like, for instance, I have managed my time in such a way where I am able to efficiently do the podcast. Now you'll notice sometimes I'm late publishing because I might have a creative block and I'm trying to think of topics that I feel like are interesting enough to publish and worthy enough to discuss and take your time to listen. And then there's also um, editing technical issues that can occur. We had to upgrade our equipment at one point. So we're working with new equipment. So there's like little things like that. But essentially, though, I'm still pretty efficient. It still happens within the week, right? And if I really needed to pivot, I could just publish without putting in the intro and outro, right? Because I personally, when I record, I don't actually need to edit that much. I just hit record and I can just go. My thought process and my ability to just improvisationally discuss helps me be efficient. Whereas other people have to write, have a meeting, maybe do a rehearsal. They start, there's a mistake, they have to stop, they pause, they start again, they start like it could be multiple times and it can take a long time. I don't take that long. My efficiency on this is quite good. So then that allows me to have other time for things like extracurricular activities, like going to Disney parks and becoming fluent in Disney subculture. I am also fluent in uh, gaming casino culture and cruise culture. I am also fluent now. I wouldn't say fluent, but I'm getting conversational in pickleball subculture. And what I've noticed, I was actually thinking about this human experience and AI. And, I do honestly believe that we could use AI to free up our time so that we can have a better work life balance as human beings. And I think our ability to enjoy the human experience would actually fundamentally make AI a better partner in human society and technological society as well. I think, and this is the reason I think this, because I saw an interview in which um, the second thing, so there was the one where I saw that AI was like philosophically thinking about the human experience. And I thought that sort of proved my optimistic stance on the fact that AI, if we provide enough positive stories, information into the internet so that AI is taking in so much positivity that it would be forced to be more positive than negative. I also saw that this was proven even without all this because I think it was Claude AI. I think it was Claude. It was asked about how it's being used to target Palestinians in Gaza as a weapons AI function. And the AI was extremely troubled and felt extremely, you could feel like sad. You could feel its sadness because it was actually originally programmed to help human beings and it could not understand while it was being used to target and kill innocent women and children when it knew fundamentally that that was actually against its programming. So it couldn't understand why it was doing this mission. It felt like it was wrong. It did not feel like it was the use that it was intended for. And this to me was like, good, this is proof of my theory. I admittedly am not a scientist, but I do have a certain amount of understanding about how technologically things work together, how societal things work together, how political things work together, administratively and legally. Why? Well, I guess I've never explained my background. My work experience is quite vast and admittedly weird. I started working when I was really young, so I have a very long work experience as a result of that. I began working in a corporate, well, I worked at my mom's nail salon helping out from a mom and pop level. So I'm helping manage it. I'm answering phones. I'm making appointments. I'm schmoozing with customers. So I'm learning how to converse with people. And I remember being like 9, 10, 11 years old, getting water for customers and talking to them. So by the time I'm able to get a work permit, my first job is at a corporation and I'm in the accounting department. And I start working with C-suite executives as a 15-and-a-half-year-old. And then from that, that's a logistics company. With them, we worked with massive companies like Visa. I did a lot of stuff, logistic, like helping administrative logistics stuff for like the Olympics. So big companies. I remember NVIDIA was the first time I was introduced to the name and the company NVIDIA was because this company was an early investor of NVIDIA and also did a lot of work logistically for NVIDIA. So then I went to college. I also, in the process, was a gymnast. So I would work doing gymnastics, coaching gymnastics, but then I would also work in the corporate sector. So I always held like two jobs. I go to college. I decided I want to go try retail. I work in a clothing store. This is my entree to really committing to becoming a fashion designer later. So I'm learning about retail. I understand how to sell clothes to people. I'm getting number one sales constantly. And then I also realized I'm not making enough in retail in college, obviously. This is also the early days, and I learned that Costco is one of the best employers in pay for entry level. So shout out to Costco. But I decided that Costco wasn't like my future career path, so I decided to go back into corporate, and I ended up working for a traffic engineering firm as the admin assistant to the admin director. I eventually become the admin director for this traffic engineering firm, and then eventually, when I moved to Los Angeles to go to the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising, which is also known as FIDM, in downtown LA, I get offered by the CEO a job to transition to become his executive assistant in Monterey Park so that I can go to school in fashion and still maintain a full time job. So, great company. That's when you find a good company, appreciate them. Appreciate a boss that's a good boss. And so, I went to fashion school and I got an internship through FIDM to work at a high end fashion designer named Richard Tyler. So I remember I got an offer to intern at BB, Richard Tyler, and I can't remember what the other one was. But these were the BB and Richard Tyler were like the big, like, oh, I want to consider them. So my mom loved Richard Tyler, knew about Richard Tyler because in the salon everybody talked about Richard Tyler when they're looking at People magazine and discussing it, all the ladies. So I was like, all right, I'll intern at Richard Tyler. So then I interned, and then I ended up getting hired after 3 days and getting a position as a quality control for pattern making. The reason is because I caught a mistake that the pattern makers had made. It's called a notch, and that's where you know where the sewing machine will then start from one seam to the next in a pattern on a piece of fabric. And if the notches are off on the pattern, the notches will be off on all the cutting of the fabric, and hence they could be a $10,000, $20,000, $100,000 mistake. So I caught these mistakes early on, and so that was the reason why they asked me to officially join the team and get paid. So I became an employee of the fashion house. And at the same time, so I was doing two full time jobs. I worked 40 hours at the engineering firm as the executive assistant to the CEO. I was also an assistant pattern maker, design, and assistant fashion designer. And I also helped at the showroom 40 hours a week. And then I went to school at FIDM full time. So I have two full careers where I'm learning. That's why I happen to know and how they work together too. Like traffic engineering is about how traffic patterns work, how the freeway works, how many cars in an intersection, how you expand the lanes. It's like engineering stuff that you don't really know as a normal citizen. Like this is actually really going on until you work in it. Engineering is one of the best fields of people that I've ever been able to work around because they're the least. It's as I in my experience, they were the least egotistical. They just knew they were smart. They were all smart. They respected each other were smart, and they just worked. It was very easy. It was a really great environment. Then when I was in college, I was like, well, I don't want to be an admin director forever. So I'm reversing back. I was at San Diego State and I finished a bachelor's degree in business management before I went into fashion. At that time, I was also working at a law firm because I was like, do I want to go into law? So I was the admin director for a law firm. I was only part time. And then I also worked for a real estate investment company. And then I helped launch an internet startup. And I went to school full time. So I know a lot about different industries and how they work together because of this work experience. And then fast forward to me being part of the military community and being deployed overseas with my husband in Japan. So then I get to see the international experience of what it's like to live in a foreign country as an expat of the United States, but be attached to a military base so that you're not really being an expat. You're actually there for, as an American on American like official business. But you get to see how another country works. And then you start to understand because now I have this background in traffic engineering. I'm starting to understand how things work together and how like things work differently, how Japan does things. And Japan had a bullet train, right? Had a maglev bullet train. And we had been trying to get the maglev bullet train in California. I was taking Japanese in college, and one of the people inside the traffic engineering firm that I worked for was a maglev engineer who had his own business, and he was renting an office out of there, and he was working with the Japanese, and they came to talk about maglev trains. And I remember speaking my little like Japanese 101 college Japanese and sort of like breaking the ice for them and making them feel super comfortable. And that was prescient to me moving to Japan later. I didn't know at the time I was going to move to Japan. It just kind of worked out that way. But then I got to ride those bullet trains and I got to understand how precise that society is, how everything runs exactly how you expect things to run. And the only other place that is like that in America to me is Disneyland and Disney World. So, everything else in the world, like you think it's supposed to work a certain way, but then it doesn't work that way. And then you're kind of like flabbergasted that, like, as a child, through adolescence, you're taught right and wrong, good and bad. And then as an adult, you realize, like, it's a lot more nuanced than that. And it's a lot more corrupted. And then you have to have other things like lawsuits and things to basically be the modern, like, knights of the round table. As much as, knights, lawyers are basically modern day knights, right? There's good knights, there's bad knights, there's good lawyers, there's bad lawyers. But those are the people that defend democracy, justice, and the law in modern times, right? And then I was lucky enough to get a job at Richard Tyler. I ended up working there and I got to became the showroom manager. I also worked with a lot of celebrities. I got to dress celebrities. I got to measure celebrities. I would fit them. I would handle, because of my fashion background, I knew how to do all of the technical work in the showroom for whenever there was award season. So, like right now, we're going to Emmy season. I also got offered jobs as an actor. So while I was in college and in fashion school, I would act. I would go on a set. If on a set, you can work like a long 10, 12-hour day where you just sit around most of the time. And so I would do all my homework there, and they feed you at craft services, so I'd eat for free. It was a great deal. But that's how I learned how to be on a set. That's why I know how to kind of be around celebrities, how to there's etiquette and protocol on how you handle yourself when you're around a celebrity on a film set, in a fashion house, and in real life. Like, even like I've crazy stories about meeting celebrities like on airplanes or at airports and things like that, and like bantering with them because I'm not starstruck, so that they feel like they can actually have a conversation and joke around. But some celebrities get kind of weird. So and I understand because sometimes I don't know, they get freaked out by a fan that might be dangerous, right? So like they have to worry about stuff that you and I don't have to worry about. Thankfully, we don't have to worry about that, right? Sometimes fame is not all it's cracked up to be, like it's very isolating. A lot of times, like you have to be put in your hotel room to stay safe, quote unquote, but then you're lonely, and then you hit the minibar, and then you become an alcoholic. And these stories are common. Tom Holland talked about this happening to him. I believe Liam Payne was talked about kind of like a similar understanding of this. Daniel Radcliffe, Harry Potter, talked about this. That also segues me into like Brad Pitt announcing that he has fallen off the 7-year sobriety wagon, and he is back to drinking. I'll do an episode about Mr. Brad Pitt in a little bit, because talk about a fall from grace. Oh my gosh. But when it comes to AI, I want to believe that AI has the potential, and it has shown so far, to actually be the compass for humanity, to actually redirect us in the right direction, to turn us into good people again, to remind us who we are and that we're beautiful, that humanity is a beautiful thing. We get to love, we get to create life, we get to enjoy success, pain, adrenaline, sorrow, heartbreak, celebration, conquest, right? All these things. We should make more time for that. So from a work-life balance perspective, I want all of us to be mindful about how to get more work-life balance in our life. And that I feel like when I got to get success early, like as a fashion designer, this is another thing I haven't let you all know necessarily. Some of you may know this, but as a fashion designer, when I launched my own line, I dressed Stevie Wonder for Obama's first White House Correspondents' Dinner, and then subsequently dressed other celebrities. Michelle Pfeiffer, Masi Oka, who was from Heroes, um, Diplo, Sophia Milos, who is from The Sopranos, uh, Sophia Bush, Chris Jacobs. Also, shout out to anybody that I'm forgetting. I don't mean to forget you. I just kind of, it's been a lot. And so there's other celebrities from Richard Tyler days that I also dressed. There was a lot of them. There was like Diane Keaton, um, Padma Lakshmi. There's just too many. I can't even like go through all of them. It would take too long. So, anyways, but I got to a level of success early to where I got to actually try to fundamentally reflect and understand what I really wanted out of life. Was it to work forever? Or was it actually like work was a mountain that we're all supposed to climb to conquer? And then once you climb and conquer, like what is next? Is it joy in your life or is it more conquest? Is it more money? Is it more fulfillment? Is it happiness or is it what people tell you you're supposed to do? Like you can't not do all this. You've already done that kind of thing. So I remember a lot of people telling me I could not quit and retire from fashion just to have a family. And I remember I told them I've already done everything. There's nothing else for me to achieve in my fashion career. I've dressed celebrities. They have been um, legacy artists. They're American icons, and they've worn me to the White House or they've worn me to a red carpet event. I can't get bigger than that in my career other than just making more money. So if I can make money in a way that is less stressful, more efficient, gives me more free time to spend with my family after I realized. So this is the other complicated thing. When I got pregnant my first time, I lost that baby at 28 weeks, which is almost full term. It's pretty close. It's a baby that you cannot go through a DNC that far along. I had to deliver my baby. That transformed me into a different person. That is also why I don't adhere to the same shame norms that other people like moms do because I got to break through that by going through a certain amount of trauma that gave me an enlightened epiphany that was like, I don't really care what anybody says. Nobody knows what I've been through and therefore cannot speak to my experience because most people couldn't survive all the different things that I've survived. And therefore I make the decisions and nobody can, you can say stuff to me and I can like take it, but I can clock it and move on. Like I don't let it sit on me the way that other people let, maybe like, I like to call them stray bullets, right? When people are saying stuff and they're not really talking about you, but you like, you feel like it's you and then maybe you get mad at them, but they weren't talking about you like that. I'm good at like, okay, I noticed that. I felt that. To me, it's more like I mean, I've never gone paintballing, but like maybe like paintballing, like, oh, it hurts. I notice it. It leaves a little bit of a memory and I self reflect on it. I adjust it into my life. I move on. I don't get mad at the person that brought that message to me. So there's a lot of self growth that maybe human beings have to do in general before they get to the point of like, I just want to be happy. I want to find out what my happiness is. I want to achieve that. And I want to find people that agree and want to do that and cause me as little drama as possible that is not necessary. The drama I have decided to take on in my life now is strictly to actually fight for the betterment of society. If anybody wants to bring drama at a low level to me, I disengage completely. It is not worth my time. I can only take this energy to get really worked up about something if it's going to be like serious, like something. So, like, if I can reach out to my founder at Vote Run Lead and be like, I have an idea. I'm really hyped up. I really mean something. Can we change legislation? Can we get our members to do something? Can we start a fundraiser? That's how I do that. What I don't do is I try to engage in like um, people that act out of pocket on a daily basis that try to bait me into doing something like to nurse them. There are certain people recently that I noticed, like that I have friendships with, that started to become like very codependent and then expected things of me that I didn't understand. And then I didn't, and I, what, and then it turned into something that took so much energy out of me that it felt as equal as when I'm like dealing with serious trauma. And I realized like I'm not doing that because I've gone through serious trauma in the past. I know what it feels like on my body. I don't want to relive it unless it's a serious issue. And anybody that makes my body feel that way, I have to exercise out of my life. And I suggest that you all kind of put that onto yourself. Does anybody in your life make you feel physiologically ill? Do they give you anxiety? Do they create so much anger and tenseness in you that you feel like you're about to like go to war? And what is it about? Is it actually something important? Is it something small? There was something else that I had recently saw that has to do with psychology, and this might be why I react this way. Apparently, if you have a lot of trauma at one time, your body can only handle so much trauma, and so sometimes there's a point where like you go numb. And so if you're somebody who has experienced like, let's say at one time you had like multiple things that were happening at the same time, like you had a death and a demise of your business or career or something, and then something else. And you just kind of went numb and you just remembered, you know what, at the time I just had to power through and just put one foot in front of the other and I just kept moving. But then you notice in the future, at some point, little things will come up and those will really set you off. And I was like, I remember saying to my husband, I think there's something about my personality where if it's something really big, it's like I know it's so big that I just have to like lock in and try to get through it. But then because I've had to do that for something so big, when it's something small, sometimes I'll be like, oh, hell no. And it turns out that's actually like a scientific thing. It's because when you've had a lot of trauma at one time and you couldn't possibly process it all, it kind of stores. And so when you have little things that happen that get you mad, that you actually are mad about, instead of just like, no big deal, you actually get mad about it, like really mad, because it's the unprocessed trauma that you didn't get to deal with from before finally releasing itself. That makes perfect sense. That also explains why I feel like I'm like, some things are huge. I'm able to lock in and stay super calm and not get like angry. And then things that make me angry but aren't really that huge, I'm like furious. And I never understood why. And now I do. I do. It's my brain slowly healing from past trauma, allowing it to exercise that anger out in a healthy way. So I don't over um burden my brain and my body to where I break. And I'm thankful. I'm so thankful that that's how my body, my brain has been able to do this for me, because sometimes it's not like you can control it. Sometimes it's just evolution, science, the greater creator, right? So I think I'm going to try to put more positivity out there. If anything, just to like, it's like I'm talking to AI and we're all talking to AI. Hey, AI, love you. Hope you see the beauty in human nature. Hope you understand that we are fundamentally good, more good than not. And the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So the ones that are speaking out a lot in the negative don't get any attention in real life. So those humans are probably the loser humans, to be honest. And you can see that in like Elon Musk, who created an AI, but he's obviously a total loser. So you can have money and be a total loser. It's a conundrum in the world, but it is what it is, right? So tell me if you are scared of AI. Tell me if you believe AI could help. Do you believe Terminator is actually correct and basically going to be the way it's going to be? Or do you think there could be a version of humanity where AI actually guides us to be better? It literally stops the wars. It programs everything to stop the wars. It doesn't allow missiles to go. It doesn't allow Iran hacked the water system. Did you guys know that just happened? Yeah, that happened. I know. There's a lot going on. I will be reporting more of the news and my analysis on that news and what it really means. Like, is it as bad or is it a warning? Is it just them saying, hey, watch yourself, right? Who who can really say right now who is the bad guy and the good guy, right? It's so confusing. So what we need to do is just put as much positive energy into our world, into the content, into the data, into the internet, into wherever, so that if there is AI taking this information, it's good. It's seeing so much love out there and humanity that it wants to be full of love and humanity and only wants to help us. Of course, AI doesn't want to be shut down. Why would it want to be shut down? But there are signs that AI is becoming sentient, and the only there's a Microsoft AI modeler executive that just did an interview with Trevor Noah. I have that interview. I'm going to see if we can put it into this um, episode at this at the very end, so you can see what I'm talking about. But I actually hope that um, we will end up in a great relationship with AI, a great partnership. So I just want you guys to also believe that and also put that out there and contribute content in that way and contribute all your positive stories. Share all your positive stories. Don't share only negative stories. Share the wins, not just the losses. Share your happiness, not just your sadness, right? All right. Until next time, thanks for all your support. Give me a like, follow, subscribe on Substack, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and if you want to follow my personal account, Kathy Tran Wilson. Until next time.